So a guy named Marcus Luttrell.
Yep.
I had to navigate through some kind of conflict between his fraternity and our fraternity, and then one day I'm watching, cable, and I'm flipping through. I get on C-SPAN, and there's Marcus Luttrell. It says Marcus Luttrell, author and American hero, and so yeah, he's an American hero, and I had to navigate through some pretty funny stories with him, but.
Well, how cool is it? So it's your first kind of Austin job then is the same company that would eventually name you CEO of, the Austin CEO of the Year, right?
That was wild.
How cool is that?
That was like, that was really wild. In fact, the publisher at the Business Journal at the time, her name was Heather Lattage,
okay.
And I worked with her. So we were peers. And she tells the story that, she's in the room with all these judges that are well-known, CEOs of Austin. And they're going through the nominees, and it was slow motion to her because she knew that there would be a little bit of weirdness to it, and they were going through these amazing entrepreneurs that I was in this room with, or not, I wasn't in the room, but they were talking about, and she's like, I think John is gonna win this. Like, she had that moment where she was hearing from the judges that they were gonna lean towards me, and sure enough, I went to the awards ceremony, and that was a really cool moment. I have never seen our communities be under attack like they are today at the city council level, at the school board level. And what I mean by attack is we're in these silos, right? And so you have, and it is a mechanism of the media world that we live in, right? And our media world, in my view, is dark. And if we're gonna be the light, what does that mean? It means, can we serve the communities in a post-pandemic world in a way that brings them out of their silos, regardless of where you are? Can we have empathy for the other side? Can we have humility in our beliefs? And can we get people to rise above? I'm not telling you go left or right. I'm saying, can we just rise above the silo and just see each other as our neighbor?
It seems like no matter what channel you tune into, today's media is full of anger, fear, and division. Austin Business Journal's best CEO of Austin, John Garrett, had a different vision. Community impact has changed the way that we connect, share, and hear stories locally here in Austin and beyond. If you're enjoying stories like these, be sure to like and subscribe. And here's John Garrett.
This is a crazy story. It's a story that there's no way, if anybody were to say, this kid from Pflugerville would start this news organization that would reach as many people as we do now, that would employ as many people as we've been able to employ, that would, be welcomed into so many homes around the state as we've been welcomed into. If you knew the background and you knew the odds that were against us in the industry that we're in, and all the naysayers, there's no way that this would have ever happened.
Right.
Like it has.
Right. So take me back to the beginning then. Take me to, because you're actually from this area, which is pretty rare. It's increasingly rare now, right? You grew up in the Pflugerville area?
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah, my wife and I, Jennifer actually is native Austinite, which is very rare.
Wow, yeah.
And I came here when I was 5. We lived in North Austin, Gracie Woods area.
Okay.
Back then, Pflugerville was a one high school town, and now it's, I think we've got 4 or 5 high schools. Yeah, so we very middle class family. My parents were small business owners, and they really instilled in me like a love for local businesses. They say they paid us, but when I was like 8, they had me walking around, some of the towns, putting on flyers on the doors and stuff. And I think I'm the youngest of 4.
Yeah.
And I think that all of us feel like we might have still been owed some from my parents. But that's how it worked. We just, my parents worked hard. We helped them, and then they provided for us. I had an opportunity to go to school, to college. My wife and I both went to high school here, and then we went to Sam Houston. If Jennifer were here, she would tell a different story. But my story with Jennifer is, I chased her for 6 years, 6 long years.
Wow.
All the way until my senior year in college. And
you're dedicated then.
Oh man. Jennifer says that, when I was chasing her, I was annoying.
Okay.
And I think she's true. I think a lot of people who know me from Pflugerville would probably do. It took me a little while to grow into who God wanted me to be.
You're being refined along the way.
It was really
I like it.
A lot of work.
Yeah.
A lot of work. But finally, I think Jennifer saw that I had some potential.
Yeah.
When I was a senior, and it's a funny story, but she reached through a friend of a friend and said, "Hey, Jennifer, I think likes you." And I had a girlfriend at the time, which was very rare, and so I dumped that girl right away. And Jennifer and I started dating when I was a senior in college, and we got married pretty young, 23 and 21, and been happily married since then.
I think you shared with us earlier there was a fraternity story with a guy who ended up being like a Green Beret or something like that.
An American hero.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, so a guy named Marcus Luttrell, who is an American hero, was one of my favorite stories. And it was really funny. I had to navigate through some kind of conflict between his fraternity and our fraternity. And then one day I'm watching, cable, and I'm flipping through. I get on C-SPAN, and there's Marcus Luttrell. It says, Marcus Luttrell, author and American hero. And so, yeah, he's an American hero. And I had to navigate through some pretty funny stories with him. But, and now even our paper in Conroe is written about him and stuff. So it's an interesting, you gotta just be open to what's going to happen. Cause you never know how, people that you run into now, you might run into, 20 years later, and they're an American hero.
Yes.
And so that's amazing. It was a really interesting story. We can talk more about that offline.
Yeah, totally. I love it. So you get married young.
Yes.
And then what happens after college?
So I thought I wanted to be a sports broadcaster. Okay. And I did some internships with a guy named Bill Schoening, who used to be the voice of the Texas Longhorns. Now he's the voice of the San Antonio Spurs. But he let me in, and he was super, he's amazing and kind to me. And I was a freshman in college at the time, and he was like, "Hey, just so you know, if you take a sports, broadcasting gig, you'll be in any crazy small town, Idaho, or that's not really what I wanted." So he said, "Hey, you should go into sales."
Yeah.
And so I took the next summer, there was a radio station in Round Rock at the time called Kick 92. Okay. And I took a job there, and I was really good at it. In fact, the owner was like, "Hey, why don't you quit college?"
All right.
And he's like, "I'm going to pay you $24,000 salary plus commission if you quit college." And I remember going to my dad. I was like, "Dad, he's going to pay me $24,000. And my dad says, "They don't give all that to you at once, right?" And so he's like, "Hey, go back to college." So I went back to college, and then I got a great internship at the Houston Chronicle.
Okay.
And did 2 internships there, and got a job at the Houston Chronicle right out of college.
Okay.
And it was one of the best things that ever happened to me.
Okay.
That was late 90s, mid to late 90s.
Yeah.
Glory years of the newspaper business.
Yeah.
They were, were literally printing money.
Wow.
And so I had a lot of success there, and just kind of moved up there while I was at the Houston Chronicle. My wife and I, though, Jennifer and I, were like a lot of people who moved away from Austin. We want to come back.
Right.
And so we wanted to come back. And so we moved, close to 1999 or so back to Austin. And I went to work at the Austin Business Journal, which is one of 41 or 42 or so business journals around the country. And that was my first management job. I was the advertising director, and learned so much about, how to hire people, what to look for. I learned how not to fire people.
Yeah.
I made some mistakes.
Sure.
It was really funny. But I got to, if you know about community impact, you kind of get the feel that it's kind of a business journal. And I really learned, at the Houston Chronicle, it was like, if you're on the editorial side, you don't talk to the people on the business side. Mm-hmm. The separation of church and state is what they called it.
Yeah.
At the business journal, that's where I learned, hey, the people on the editorial side, they can talk to the people on the business side, and it's not weird. They can work together. Yeah. And I learned so much at the business journal before we started Community Impact, but that was kind of my career progression.
Yeah. Okay. And as you reflect on your early career, had you identified young, what you would say is your first love professionally? Would you say it's the leadership side or the business side or the, journalism? I know you just mentioned you've always kind of been in the business realm. So is it Is it just that you happen to like go a journalism route with business? Do you know what I mean?
Yeah, it was always entrepreneurship to me.
Yeah.
I remember like that word. I remember I was like in 9th grade, and it's like, hey, draw out what you want to be when you grow up. And I remember going to HEB, and they used to sell magazines there.
Yeah.
And I remember they had the Entrepreneur magazine, because I didn't know how to spell entrepreneur.
Yeah.
This was before
I
Google.
still don't know if I do, man.
Yeah, now you can
I
just type
mess
it in
it
and
up
say,
every
"Did you
time."
be?" Yeah. I didn't know how to
Yeah.
spell it.
Yeah.
And so that's what I did. And so I always wanted to be an entrepreneur.
Cool.
And I kind of made the goal with Jennifer. I was like, hey, when I turn 30,
Yeah.
that's what I want to do. And so I had all these crazy bad ideas. I mean, I was going to open up a golf shop in Houston, and then I studied dry cleaning businesses. That's a hard business. If you can do well in dry cleaning business, it's a tough business. But Jennifer was always like, so and I was making good money, and I was doing good things, and so
That's like the mark of a true entrepreneur, though, right? You have way more bad ideas than you
Way-
have good
I had a
ideas,
lot of bad
right? So
ideas.
it's just
Yeah.
constantly going. Yeah.
Yeah, and luckily I had Jennifer there to tell me that's a bad idea,
Right.
Because I didn't make any bad mistakes
Yeah,
along the way.
100%. Well, how cool is it? So it's your first kind of Austin job then is the same company that would eventually name you CEO of, the Austin CEO of the Year, right?
That was
amazing.
wild.
How cool is that connection?
That was like that was really wild. In fact, the publisher at the Business Journal at the time, her name was Heather Lattage,
Okay.
and I worked with her, so we were peers. And she tells the story that she's in the room with all these judges that are well-known CEOs of Austin, and they're going through the nominees. And it was slow motion to her, because she knew that there would be a little bit of weirdness to it. And they were going through these amazing entrepreneurs that I was in this room with, or not, I wasn't in the room, but they were talking about. And she's like, I think John is going to win this. Like, she had that moment where she was hearing from the judges that they were going to lean towards me. And sure enough, I went to the awards ceremony, and that was a really cool moment. To be able to tie all that together.
Yeah.
That when I left the Business Journal to start Community Impact, which is a story we can talk about, but it was really difficult, and for me it was more of like it kind of put a lot of the difficult past truly behind all of us, and they were able to celebrate the good work that we had done in a way that was just incredibly meaningful to me, and really honored all of our employees, that had worked so hard to build something really different than the Business Journal. So it was a really special moment.
Wow, that's so powerful. I love that.
Yeah.
I'm curious, before we like jump to the community impact side, just while we're still on kind of young career, is there anything that you've identified? I'm always so curious, like nature versus nurture, but just that has kind of like impacted your wiring, whether it's multiple siblings, being the youngest, is it, mom and dad, like, this kind of grit, drive, curiosity you have, the entrepreneurial spirit, how much of that is like, man, as long as I can remember, I've been this way, versus here's a few defining moments or habits or something that I think has maybe cultivated that in you?
I think I've always been this way. I mean, our first editor here at Community Impact was a 7th grade teacher of mine who hated my guts. And it was because, like, at school, I always argued with teachers. I always debated. So I think I always had this curiosity and a passion for justice. And those things together really just drove me. And it took a while for it to get to a point where it was healthy. And I think that was a maturing process. But during my adolescence and even during my young careers, and even as I started CI, that little fight for justice, we always believed that everyone deserved to know what all the insiders knew. And it was like this, I didn't feel right, that because the Business Journal model was like, if you subscribe to the Business Journal, you're going to know about development before anybody else so that you can make money. And I was always like, I felt like everybody deserves, so it's a sense of justice that everyone deserves to know this stuff. And then my debate nature is like, tell me why I'm wrong. Like, because I don't know if I believe that. I don't know if I believe you. Like, that doesn't make sense to me. And so those two things together, I think, has really kind of created this the entrepreneur I am today and the leader I'm today, hopefully I'm a little bit better at asking questions and being curious than I was, a few years ago even. But I think I am. I think I'm getting better at that.
Wow. Well, it feels like there's so much of the heart of what you just described that is now in the heart of community impact as well.
Mm-hmm.
So I would be curious if we were to kind of timeline now, like go back to what led to the events to start community impact, kind of the beginning. I probably just could let you go from here, but the beginning of that story, and all the pieces there.
Yeah. So like, I just had this idea, and I sketched it out. And we're in our bedroom, and I sketched it out on a sheet of paper. I still have the paper today, and I showed it to Jennifer. I'm like, "This is it. Like, this is what's missing." So we lived in Round Rock. There were community newspapers. We'd had friends over that we go through them and like, this is just not good enough. Yeah. Like, the quality of the work, what they wrote about, it just felt like we deserved kind of I always believed in what the Business Journal was doing, the quality of the journalism and how they presented the news. I was like, we deserve better than this. And so I sketched it out, and as soon as Jennifer saw it, she's like, that's it. I'm glad you're not doing the golf shop.
Yeah.
I'm not glad you're not doing the dry cleaning. This is it. And so then my background in mail and my background in the news business, I started building a business plan.
Yeah.
And, Excel spreadsheet, got bids from printers, figured out what the postage thing could look like, learned a little bit about the postage system. And it looked like, okay, we could do all of this without paying employees. It would cost us about $17,000, a month to do this work. Now we got to pay employees and that kind of thing, but that was kind of the number. So then I was like, okay, can I go get that many people to support it? And I did something pretty clever at the time. Like, I think most of the people, luckily, I knew people in the local advertising space because of my work at the Austin Business Journal. So I had people that I had built relationships with that believed in me, but most of those people were like, this is not going to work.
Yeah.
Because we were going to mail 60,000 newspapers out for free.
Wow.
And it sounds crazy today.
And some people said that was a bad idea.
Even back then, like I think, I mean, I did all the research, and I think even the Austin American Statesman at the time, that was kind of their glory years. They were maybe going to like 10,000 of the same area.
Yeah.
So we're going to go to 60,000. And I built a business model around advertising that basically all the advertisers would kind of share in the cost, right? Found a rate that I felt like they could afford. Some of my background with my parents, just understanding how small business works and how their budgets work and that kind of thing. I felt like I got it to the right spot. And I think the thing that was clever that I did is I was like, okay, look, if you buy the first issue, I'll give you half off if you sign a 12-time contract. Okay. This is like, everyone talks about software as a service. Like we were doing that, before that was like a thing. But I was just saying, okay, if I could get, $15,000 of ads in that first month, that would be $30,000, right? The next month. Right. Yeah. And then I could pay, I had salaries and that kind of thing. I could pay my people. And sure enough, we got it. And most people, if you talk to them today that advertise in that first issue, they'll tell you like, they all thought we were going to fail that first issue.
Yeah.
And so a lot of them signed contracts. They were like, wow, you actually pulled it off. I guess I got to pay full price now. And but then we were off and running. And
is this the Southwest credit card story to like get it going, the 40 grand? And it's like
we took a the Southwest Airlines, they sent out those convenience checks. Convenience checks. And it was like 1.9%. So I tried to go conventional bank. And, we just had like a little bit of 401k money. We didn't have a lot of money at the time. Jennifer and I were, just had our first child. She was, 2 years old, Molly. And so we didn't really have a lot of money. And banks it's really hard to get a business loan when when you don't have a business.
Yes.
And so I got a $39,000 line of credit from Southwest Airlines, a convenience check, wrote that out. Pay attention to that small print. That's really important. You don't want to go over the 40,000. And so we had that, and that's how we got it going. So, the first month, we had, 16, and we had about $22,000 or so of expenses.
Okay.
But we knew month 2 we could cover it. And it was a big risk, but we were like, okay, if this thing fails and we owe $50,000, at the end of all this, I can go get another job. And, I was still young. I was 30. So I hit my 30-year-old goal. And I was like, you know what? I can go get another job and it's going to be fine. So it worked out.
Yeah. But you didn't need to go get another job.
I know. I'm still here. Yeah. That's been good.
Yeah. So talk me through, that was 2005?
2005.
Is that right?
Yep.
Okay. Yeah. So talk me through like the early years of the company, then when you knew you like had something, you saw this model working.
Yeah. We started, the first issue goes out. And so in 2005, this is hard to believe because people who get community impact, we've been doing it now for 17 years. We really did invent something new in 2005. Now, our paper, when it came out, it was full color like it is today. It was stitched and trimmed. It was stitched, meaning stapled and trimmed. That was unique. Most newspapers, they fall apart. They're rough around the edges. We wanted a high-quality product from the very beginning. And that was hard in 2005 because we had limited resources. And also, this was before Google Maps.
Yeah.
So we kind of, our first issue that came out, if you go to our website, you can check it out. It's crazy. The design is not nearly as good. But we had this huge satellite image of the toll roads and, 45 and 130 where we're located here.
Yeah.
Now, no one knew where they were going.
Yeah.
Or how much they were going to cost to drive. We were the first ones to tell people.
Yeah.
And that thing goes out. And so you imagine, you live in Round Rock and you open your mailbox and there's a front page story that tells you where the toll roads are going. We told about IKEA was coming. No one knew that IKEA was going to Round Rock. So we had all this people were like, what?
And this is insider information before you had to pay for it. And your sense of justice, hey, maybe
everyone
public,
deserves
everybody.
it.
Yeah.
That's right.
That's amazing.
And so that first issue goes out and people, they were, back then we had a little caller ID box, with, it was a little box. You probably don't, you're too young. But this is before caller ID just showed up on your phone. Yeah. Yeah. And you just have to pay. It's like $5 a month. So it was a lot. But man, that first issue went out and people loved it. And they were calling us. Back then you had to pay for voicemail. We had an answering machine and it was not very good. But we knew right away that first issue went out. And that month 2, we actually sold out. So we had all those ads already in month 1 that were now double in price. And we had a few open spots and we sold those within 2 weeks.
That's amazing.
Of month 2. So we were able to really focus on quality of content and design. What we invented at the local level is a way with design to tell kind of complex community issues. Like Lake Pflugerville wasn't built yet. We took month 2 or 3, we did this whole we took the engineering plans and we took these complex community issues and we made them compelling with really good infographics and really good design and maps. And that was just new.
Right.
And no one had ever done that.
Yeah.
And so we knew we had something special. 6 months later, we're like, let's go to Cedar Park Leander. And they deserve to know this stuff too. And so we started in Round Rock, Pflugerville. We go to Cedar Park Leander. It's a big hit there. Yeah. And we just keep adding around Austin.
Yeah.
And we've Georgetown and Northwest Austin and, Southwest Austin, Central Austin. We just kind of kept growing.
Yeah.
And everywhere we went, it was new and it was unique. And I think people, even at that time when community papers were still doing okay, we were still kind of a unique niche to that community. And we're filling a nice role that they didn't have before.
Yeah. What were some of the biggest challenges you were facing in those early days?
Oh man, making payroll.
Yeah.
Post office doesn't doesn't give you credit.
Yeah.
You show up and you got to pay. Building, we had a relationship with a printer in Dallas that was fantastic. Still to this day, they're my friends. Getting the postage right. One day, they printed all the postage stuff wrong on every newspaper. And so we had the whole team, that was like 5 of us, had to show up at the post office and resort all the bundles that the newspapers came in on. And so production issues were really big. I think, I didn't buy good libel insurance for the newspaper business. And I had a mentor that told me to. And then one day we printed something bad about a company and they were threatening to sue us. I'll never forget, it was a Friday.
Oh, man.
Yeah. My mentor just shows up, in my office. He's like, why is everybody so down here? I told him, he's like, did you buy that insurance? I was like, no, because it was like $3,000.
Yeah.
I was like, no, I didn't buy the insurance. He's like, let me ask you a question. how would you feel right now if you had bought that insurance? I was like, I'd feel a lot better. He was like, lesson learned there. So we had all sorts of those kind of challenges. And, but generally speaking, we had a really good product that scaled, and we just kind of kept doing it. Yeah. And I think people really loved our product. And that gave us some really great momentum.
Yeah. Would you say expanding outside of Austin was like the next kind of big chapter in the journey, if you will? When did that first happen?
So Jason Culpepper, who I worked with, I actually knew him at Sam Houston, and I worked with him at the Houston Chronicle. He and his wife visited Austin. We were friends, and he came to the office, and he was like, "Hey, I think we should do this in Sci-Fair in Houston." And this was 2008, 2009. So this is the recession, and I'm like, why don't you all go and pray about this, And he was like, "Oh, we already have. We need to do this." And so, I mean, for those of y'all that haven't been to Houston, since back then, 2008, it was a different place. Okay. It was like you'd pull up to retail place, and it's like four lease. It was hard, but Jason grinded it out, and they had a big road project. Road projects have been really good to us, and they had a big 290 expansion, and we did this big story on it as a lead, and people loved it. Yeah, and we're like, okay, Houston deserves a community impact too, and so we kind of kept growing in Houston, and then we're like, well, we're in Austin and Houston, Dallas, why not? And so we started in Dallas. There's all sorts of fun stories. Dallas was a real grind. It was a real struggle until we got the right leadership that we have today, but. We kept kind of doing the same thing and so forth. Wow.
What's like the number of readers that you'd have in a given month? Like what did it, from starting from that original dream to like what it scaled to?
Yeah, so we had 60,000 distributed copies in our first issue, and now we're doing about 2.6 million to Texans. Yeah.
That's so amazing.
It is great.
I love it. You have 150 employees?
We have closer to 200 employees.
Closer to 200? Okay.
Yeah. And, we've had our struggles. We've had markets in Texas where we had to pull back, that we didn't have the success. We launched out in Phoenix, which we had a pretty good operation there, Nashville and Atlanta. And just recently we decided, hey, we got to get back to Texas. There's a lot of reasons for all that. Yeah. Obviously the pandemic, supply chain issues, getting great people, those kind of things were as every business challenges with, trucking, this printing plant, like we print everything here, and we were shipping it out to Phoenix, and so we were not batting 1,000. Yeah, we've had some hurdles and some challenges along the way, but we're down in San Antonio as well. So our real focus is, hey, how could we serve Texas communities? And we have this huge Texas reach, and there's some pretty great companies. You think of like HEB that just really prosper in Texas, and so. We're going to try to go that model and try to do Texas communities really good work.
I love that. Tell me the story behind the building that we're in right now. Yeah. This is cool to get to shoot here, and this is an amazing decision to have this come together too. So when you guys went and built this was like, counterculture within the industry, and you decided to make this move.
Yeah, this is a story. So the background is, we're printing at this Dallas printer, and basically we were spinning we'd gone from spinning, $1 million to $5 million pretty quickly because we were growing so quickly with them. And I was like, hey, don't you think we should get some kind of volume discount with all these papers? And so they went and did their math, and they came back with a price increase. And my great ops guy, David Ludwig, also reminds me that they were also kind of running out of capacity. But I was more mad about the price increase. And we're like, what if we built our own plant? Yeah. And we did the math on it, and it mathed out, it penciled out we could do it. But for me, the turning point was these presses that you see here they're called Goss Magnum compact presses. They're kind of state-of-the-art presses. Most presses were at the time were 2-3 times the size. But there's only one that we could go see in the whole world. It was up in New York. And David and I fly up to New York. And I'm like, okay, these presses alone are like 3.6 million. We knew to outfit the equipment, we'd probably need like 5 million. Yeah. And that, Jennifer and I are the only shareholders in the company. We don't have outside investors. Wow. So we signed the notes personally, right? Yeah. And so it was pretty scary. And I remember saying like, hey, God, like if you want us to do this, I need you to show up in a way that only you can.
It's different than that $40,000 loan.
It's a lot different.
Sure.
It's a lot. It's a couple more zeros.
Yeah.
And I'll never forget. So we go up there and well, first of all, you don't really understand what an art printing is and how water and air and ink and paper come together miraculously. When you see these machines running, it's just miraculous how it all comes together. And you need really good people to do it. And then the day we get back from New York, the Austin American-Statesman announced that they're closing their printing plant.
That day. You get back
and I
off
was
the
like,
airplane. Yeah.
And the reason why that was so monumental to me was because, first of all, we knew our vendor up in Dallas was running out of room. The Statesman and their plant could do our job, so we could expand with them. But when the Statesman shut down, we'd done the research. Like, our job is a complicated job, and we knew that very few people could do it around the country. And so this isn't like outsourcing your coffee. This is like your product. And so for me, it was like a sign that, hey, we need to own our destiny. And then, but the biggest thing happened that I didn't even understand was when the Statesman decided to shut down, they had all these people that needed jobs.
Yeah.
That were gifted at running these machines. And I didn't understand how big of a deal that was at the time.
Sure.
But the timing was incredible. Like the Statesman was generous with their package. They'd given them 6 months off. We needed them to start because we were building the plant. We needed them. It was perfect timing. The Statesman invited us in, let us interview all these people.
Wow.
And we got them. We got them here, and it was just the timing was just incredible. And this has been a real blessing for us. And I think it's one of those things where if we had known then what we know now about how all of these like pipes around here work, like it is insane. I don't know. I think there was a little bit of like, well, for me anyways, I had a little bit of blind faith.
Sure.
And we had good, local banking partners that helped fund the building and help fund the equipment and all the timing. It all really worked out well. And I'm very grateful for the people who kind of made it all come together for us. And it's been a real, it's a huge asset for us.
Yeah.
We do a ton of direct mail. We've got a sticky note. We do sticky note. We do so many cool things around here that create jobs, but also give us business opportunities, to continue to fund the work of the journalism that we're doing. So.
Yeah, no, it's unbelievable. I'm curious, there's a little bit of a theme here. So I'm thinking about even starting community impact, right? And then I'm thinking about investing millions in this printing facility in a world that's going digital and all of that. I'm curious about how you would decipher these moments of kind of, hearing like wise counsel or wise advice, if you will, and knowing when you need to go and take a risk versus you need to like listen to the people that are saying, hey, this can't be done, or this isn't the future, and so on, right? Because that can be really tricky to know when you're making a good, bold move and when this is like, man, I'm ignoring really smart people.
Yeah.
So how do you navigate that?
Yeah, I mean, I'm still learning, and I think you always want to. Anytime you're making a big decision, if you can, I think what I've learned the most is if you can lean in with humility, that's the best place. That's the best posture, because you're always going to be defensive. You're going to be like, we should do that. You have a vision, you have an idea, and you want to like go make it happen. You're gonna like plow through some hurdles just with that alone, and that's what makes the world move, and that's what changes the world. And I'm grateful for that. But when I started CI, but even back in 2005, I had so many people that told me that's the worst idea I've ever heard. In fact, when I quit the Business Journal, my boss at the time basically told me that. Like, that is the worst idea I've ever heard. And so you have people like that are in the industry, and you're like, wow, like I need to be listening to her. But I had my wife, and I had my dad. I had great friends that were there at the very beginning who are still involved today. Claire Love is one of those people that still works here. She's our longest tenured employee. That she left a consulting job to help us with this. And I have all these people around me that are like, no, this will work. So there's that. So you say, who's around me that loves me and that wants what's best for me? Am I listening to them? Okay? Not everybody else, right? But the people around me. Okay, then you got to look at the data.
Okay.
And I'm telling you, like, even today, it's 2022, and I love what we're doing digitally. We've got some incredible digital products. I'm very proud of them. But even today, I would tell you that our model is the best model to fund local journalism. And I'm telling you, there's very few people in our industry that would agree with that. There are a lot more than people know, but all the industry like experts are like, you're crazy. They were crazy. I was crazy in 2005. I'm crazy in 2022. The reason is how the model works and looking at data, right? And I think you got to take your loved ones who love you, who want what's best for you, listen to them, and you have to look at the data, right? To give you a reverse example, I'm presenting we called it Drive to 2025 plan. And it is a drive. It is like, hey, we need to scale, we need to go. And I could tell my leadership was a little bit anxious about all the going that I wanted to do. But I went and presented with some other like-minded CEOs who I really trust. And they all told me, like, you need to pull back.
Yeah.
You need to like close. We called it national, Phoenix and Nashville and the other markets outside of Texas. They said you need to close national. And I think I'm grateful by the grace of God. I felt like I had this like sense of, hey, shut up and listen.
Yeah.
And I'm like listening to these guys saying that. And my journey since then is like, I don't even know, today, we're in September 2022. I don't even know if I made the right decision, but I had this moment where I felt like as an entrepreneur, you are given choices and you do the best you can with those two things, the people who love you and the data, and you make a decision.
Yeah.
And sometimes it's not clear the right decision or the wrong decision, but I feel like that's been how I'm going to do it.
Yeah.
And I can give you other examples where I didn't listen to the people around me and I made a decision and it blew up. So those are my two filters.
Wow. The
people who love you first.
Wow.
And if they all tell you you're crazy, my experience says don't do it.
Wow.
But if they're supportive and you look at the data and the data says go, then go.
Wow.
If the data says don't go, don't go.
Wow.
So that's how I would filter those two things.
I think that's so insightful though. I mean, and your story like embodies that. Because I think if it was from a wounding or an insecurity, I'm just going to prove everyone wrong.
Right.
And then you go and make some decisions you can't take back type thing. But you have a history of doing both, a little bit plowing forward when maybe some of the periphery is warning you, in some moments where you pull back. And it's just, I think, part of what's so impressive about, your story.
Thanks.
Yeah, I'm really inspired by that. So I'm thinking COVID would be another for this industry. Tell me, what was that season like? What did you guys learn over the last couple of years kind of navigating this business model through a pandemic? What were some of the challenges you guys faced?
I had a friend, his name's Brent Beshore. He's he's probably the smartest business guy I know. He's up in Missouri, and he called me like early February.
Yeah.
And he was warning me. And even then, we all thought it was going to last like 6 weeks, right?
Yeah, exactly. I remember some Slack channels back then, hey, 2 weeks, 4 weeks, like how long?
Let's just take some time.
Yeah.
And that was a really hard, we're 100% driven by our advertising. And of that advertising, most of it's mom and pop and restaurants and local businesses. And so when it came through, we took the approach that we said, hey, we're going to let everybody that needs to get out of their contract. We weren't going to make restaurants who had signed contracts with us still advertise why they were forced to be closed. So like overnight, we lost about 40% of our revenue. But we were thinking, hey, this is just...
6 weeks.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And so I one of the neat things that happened to me during that time is, I go to all these like CEO conferences and they're all like, okay, you got to have a mission statement, you got to have your values, and we are a mission-driven, values-driven company. But there's always this like, what's your purpose? I was like, why do I need a purpose? Our mission is really good. Like, why do I need a purpose? And I learned during the pandemic, like, what does that mean? And so for me, what that meant was I was walking around my neighborhood, like everybody else, right? Walking around our neighborhood during the pandemic.
Highlight of the day.
Yeah, that's right. And I remember thinking like, why do we need to exist as an organization? And the answer was, the reason why we exist is to be a light. And if we went away, there would be another news organization that would pick up the slack. Businesses would be able to advertise elsewhere. But I really felt like our purpose for our employees, for our advertisers, for our readers who get the paper, for all these vendors, these paper vendors and ink vendors, our purpose is to be a light. And so that was for me the biggest takeaway from the pandemic, you know, we are so fortunate. I mean, we still are, obviously with the national close, there was a lot of supply chain stuff that we're still struggling with, like every other business is still struggling with. But we've recovered, and I'm very grateful for that. And we have a bright future, I think. But the biggest thing that came for us from the pandemic was this idea of purpose. And I'll tell you, what's got me most excited about, also the most nervous about, is, you know, if our purpose is to be a light, you know, in 17 years of doing this, I have never seen our communities be under attack like they are today at the city council level, at the school board level. And what I mean by attack is we're in these silos, right? And so you have, and it is a mechanism of the media world that we live in, right? And our media world, in my view, is dark. And if we're going to be the light, what does that mean? It means, can we serve the communities in a post-pandemic world in a way that brings them out of their silos, above their silos, with, you know, I'm coaching our reporters to report with humility and to report with empathy, right? Regardless of where you are, everybody's got a worldview, right? Regardless of where you are, can we have empathy for the other side? Can we have humility in our beliefs? And so if we're going to be a light in a post-pandemic world, to me, at the community level and the unique place that we have in the communities we serve, can we get people to rise above? I'm not telling you go left or right. I'm saying, can we just rise above the silo and just see each other as our neighbor? And can we have empathy for each other? You know, that's really where I feel like we're going. And I'm telling you, like, I'm super nervous about it, because everyone says, just like, why build a printing plant? Everyone says it can't be done. That we're so in our silos. Don't, you know, media, you can't trust media. You know, can you trust community impact? You can. You know, but we got to keep earning that month in and month out. And I never thought that it would get to that point at the school board level or the city council level, but politics is there. Stronger in our communities than ever. So what's our unique role to help, you know, help shine a light on both sides, and with humility and with empathy.
No, it's just, as a casual observer, and I don't think I'm alone in it, you described how I feel like media, and it doesn't matter left or right, it just feels all extreme, it feels all negative, and it feels really difficult to trust more than ever, I think, through the last couple of years. You know, you change 2 different channels, 2 different sides, completely conflicting info all the time. So agenda driven. And there's this weird sense with community impact of, like, there's this safety, this, like, they're for us. There's, my wife loves community impact. You know, it's pretty radically different just emotions when you think about, like, brand awareness that I have, like, between, you know, I'm saying all of these and community impact. And I'm wondering, like, from yours, although maybe it's what you just said, humility, empathy, being a light, is there anything else you would say, like, man, this is what I think makes us different, or I'm striving, you know, from your mouth, it's like, this is what I want us to be different?
Yeah, I mean, I think, you know, when I started CI, I had a prayer that, you know, that when our paper was welcomed in a home, that it would be welcome, like the brand would be welcome. And listen, I mean, the data is clear, and it's insane. If you look, cities around the state are doing these city surveys, and they're asking their citizens, like, where do you get your news? And it's like unheard of. Like, the data, it's not even our data. It says that between 65 and 80% of every community that we've seen this data from reads community impact. And it's by far the most used source of local news, by far. More than
I heard
Facebook.
You say somewhere it's like higher than the amount of people who watch the Super Bowl.
Yes,
in some areas, right? It's
40% of people watch the Super Bowl, and every month we're doing it. Every month people are trusting us. So our team takes that very seriously, and so we just feel like anybody. It's easy to build an MSNBC. It's easy to build a Fox. Like, we're to say we're just going to be liberal, progressive, or we're going to be conservative, right? And that's easy, because then you just play that game, and you're just trying to make. We want to rise above it. Can we hold each other accountable to that? Why? Why do we want to? Because we really want to create something that, if you're left or right or in the middle or an independent or new to America, that you can read something that you can trust. And And that's going to be a lot harder, but we feel like that's that whole, I think, sense of justice that I have that says it has to be.
Yeah.
You know, one of the books I read when I started CI was Andy Stanley. He wrote a book called
Visioneering? Yeah.
And it's the story of Nehemiah, right? And and the whole idea is there's a difference between what could be and what has to be, right? Yeah. And so we could be a right-wing newspaper, or we could be a left-wing newspaper, right? But what has to be is we have to rise people above, and that's what's going to drive us, And I don't know how it's going to turn out, but I feel like it's the right thing to do.
Wow. You talked about being a value-driven company. Are those industry-specific values, or are those things that are transferable? What are those?
Yeah, so our values, we have 5 values. We call them the 5 stones. And it's we have faith, which says that we're here to accomplish something great. We are a unique place in our communities.
Yeah.
We get to meet with the mayor. We get to meet with the city council member. We get to meet with the senator, U.S. senator. And we take that position with great pride, but also humility in that we want to do a good job. So we know that being a newspaper in the community that we serve, being in every household, that we have kind of this place to do something great, right? We're passionate. You can see the passion. We want to always give our best. That's another one of our values, quality.
Okay.
Everything from the product to the words that we write. We want
from
to
day one, all color.
All of this stuff. Yeah, exactly. Quality.
Yeah.
Integrity, obviously. We sell a lot of ads, but we don't do, average. You can't pay to play. So we're not, the business profiles we do aren't paid advertisements. A lot of people don't know that, but those are just, we're curious about your business. Let us write about it.
Yeah.
And the last one is innovation. And I think that's what tricks people. They don't understand what an innovative news organization we are. We have a data team that's amazing. We do great work, but we want to innovate. We want to keep getting better. So those are the values that kind of keep us aligned, and we filter our decisions. Being a values-driven organization, what does that mean?
Yeah.
It doesn't mean you just have fancy words, you put them on a wall.
Right.
It means that every decision you make, you filter it through those value decisions, and you make sure that they align with those values.
I was going to say that it seemed consistent with who you are, consistent with the brand that is community. Those don't feel like something you just kind of threw out there, and you're like, hey,
that's right.
100%.
And that was team. The team came together, and we came up with those together. So it was cool.
Well, what's next for Community Impact? I know you're saying there's like big updates coming, shortly here.
Yeah, I mean, we're really excited about, our focus on Texas is going to be really big. We're going to continue to grow in, the Dallas market and San Antonio market. We're going to continue to grow. We're at the end of the day, if you come to any of our offices in Austin, Houston, San Antonio, or Dallas, the most important thing for Jennifer and I is that our employees feel cared for. Our offices are nice. Like, it's a nice workspace. So we want our employees to feel cared for. We want our customers to feel valued and feel well treated. And if we can keep that going and build upon that, then I'm going to be really, continue to be proud of my role and the job I have at Community Impact. So.
Wow, it's really exciting times. Yeah.
Thanks.
But how's working with your wife been for 17 years? Is that something you'd recommend to others?
That is a great question. We work really well together. She keeps me sane. She's my best. I mean, when you own a business, business owners understand there's a weight of everything that you do that even your most valued or most loyal employee doesn't understand. And I get to share that weight with her, and she has stronger shoulders than I do. She's an amazing wife and amazing businesswoman. And I think anybody who thinks Community Impact success is built on my brain or my shoulders, I need them to meet Jennifer Garrett.
Wow. Yeah, I was thinking what a powerful moment it was earlier when you were like, I've got 1,000 ideas, but then Community Impact, she was like, this is the one, what a gift that is.
That's right.
So powerful. So let's maybe end on this. I'd love to ask our guests just, what inspires you today? We have all kinds of people chasing big and small dreams out there, all kinds of different places, industries, stages of life, and so on. But in terms of what's inspiring you next right now, while you're getting out of bed, out of the bed in the morning right now, what would you say inspires you most today?
I mean, no question. I have like enough work to do here to get me out of bed and get me excited. All the work that we're doing, the growth that we're doing, I think what I'm most excited about right now, though, is I didn't understand the capacity that that national took away from me as a leader, and I've noticed that without that on my plate, just focusing on Texas and focusing on our employees, focusing on our product, I'm like, I wonder if like I'm learning that maybe I'm not the kind of CEO that can scale like this national or international organization. Maybe I'm the kind of person that can really do a good job on, in Texas and make our employees feel really valued and they feel like we're going somewhere. So I feel like I got out of that a little bit. And so what gets me out of bed right now is, belief is one of my top strengths. And I have this belief in what we're doing, and being able to get a new employee to feel just a little bit of that belief in what we're doing is really what is getting me out of bed right now. I'm grateful for it. It's crazy.
Yeah.
I would have never have thought that, but sometimes bad things can turn out to be good things in ways we don't understand. And I'm starting to see a little bit of that in ways I didn't expect.
Wow. On the other side of you, I feel like you have that ability to put that belief in a lot of people. So it's very encouraging.
Thank you. Appreciate that.
Yeah, thank you. I know you have an insane schedule, letting us in here when a day where it's shut down on a holiday. Really appreciate it.
Hey, I love what y'all are doing. I'm thankful to just be a part of it and have a good conversation with you. And I think what you're trying to do to connect people to the community and ATX is so important, and I'm grateful to be able to play a role in it. So
we're saying that our heart there seemed like some interesting similarities.
That's right.
Yeah, really was excited for this combo. So really appreciate it.
All right, man. Well,
thanks so much.
Yeah. Let's get to work. Let's get these presses going.